Welcome, Excel students. I just want to give you a brief little discussion here about absolute references and how they are so important for you to understand as you write formulas, especially in this chapter, but beyond when you're using Excel in the regular workplace. So on page 151, you'll notice this introduction to absolute versus relative addressing. Okay, and the chart at the bottom shows the 4 different ways that a cell could be written, and 3 of these ways show absolute referencing in place. The first one with the $B, $4 means that when you use that reference in a formula and then copy that formula to a new location, B4 absolutely stays B4. And that's how I try to remember this, is when you put the dollar signs on it, it absolutely will stay that number when you copy it. When you think about a relative reference, just B4, and the way you've been writing formulas up until now, you're just putting in the cell reference. When you copy those to a new location, they change depending on where they landed. So if you copied a formula with B4 in it to the right, it would change to C4 and D4, and that's normally what you want. But there are some instances, like the example that we are working on in this chapter, where you'd like that number to stay steady as you copy. So here's your work that you have going on for Chapter 3, Part 1. And this is an example as done on page 154. Okay, so right now we're working on calculating the cost of goods sold and then the gross margin. Okay, and after step 3, you have put in formulas that will do that, and you have used absolute referencing in B5. So I just want to talk about that for just a second so I can help you make this really clear in your mind. So the formula says B4 times 1 minus B19. The B19 is in dollar signs, meaning when we copy it, it will stay B19. So let's think that through. So we're taking B4, our revenue for April, and we're going to multiply that by 1 minus B19. Well, the reason why we want to say 1 minus B19 is this company has decided that the profit or margin that they want to make on their items that they sell is going to be 77.5%. That's a huge margin, right? A huge profit. So in reality, the cost of the goods that they're selling is the opposite of that number when you think about it as a percentage. So 22.5% is the opposite of 77.5% when you're looking at 100%. So back to the formula, we're taking the revenue times 1 minus B19, which think in your head 22.5%, and that's what's calculating this $10,125. That's the amount that we are estimating that we are going to spend for the items that we are selling. Okay, now we're going to copy this formula to the right, and then we're going to take a look at one of the formulas down the line here. We'll look at E5, and let's pick that apart. So that is saying we're going to take E4, because that was a relative reference. So E4 is $90,000. We're going to multiply that by 1 minus B19 again. So B19 absolutely stayed the same. And that would be, in your head, you could say 22.5%. And the answer to that equation is 20,250. Okay, the last formula that you put in on this page is calculating the gross margin or gross profit. Think of it that way if that helps you. And that is subtracting the cost of goods sold from the revenue. Okay, so we simply start with an equal sign. We write in B4 minus B5 to get our gross margin. There are no absolutes needed here. When we copy this to the right, we want it to change with every cell so that it will take the numbers in every column and give us the gross margin. So again, we'll just click on E6, and you see the formula is E4 minus E5. So that is a relative reference in row 6, as opposed to row 5, where we did use one absolute reference, when we wanted to make a calculation down in this what if assumptions area. While I'm talking about the what if assumptions area, in most cases, when you have an area like this that you're using for calculations in your spreadsheet, you want to set that off with some kind of color, and your book will demonstrate that, and we will look for that when we're grading your papers, so that your what if assumptions really does stand out from the other numbers, and that way it's easy to see that that's just basic information that you're using to make calculations. These aren't real numbers from sales or revenue or anything like that, okay? Thank you for listening about absolute cell references. Hope you continue through the chapter and don't have any problems.